Yeah, so today we have with us Dr. Shravan Chenji, who is the health officer at UNICEF Gujarat. Dr. Shravan, welcome to National Dynamic Medical Student Summit.
Hi, Sajjan. Very glad to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you today. Right. So, Dr. Shravan, you completed your MD in community medicine and you took a different pathway after that. So, we just would like to know about all about that as we go on. But just to give an insight into what we are trying to accomplish in this particular event is to give the practical aspects, right, of a particular specialty. In this case, community medicine as a specialty, and what is the opportunities for these students who could take that. And also, we always talk about WHO, UNICEF, but normally we don't meet people who have been in that, because you guys are very busy working in a lot of things. We'll of course discuss all those things going ahead, and that's what I think would give actual a picture of reality and what they can expect of being in this particular specialty, right? So with that, I think the first question would like to ask and discuss is, why did you take community medicine as a specialty? Was it your first choice, or what happened in that new process of choosing that? Because everyone is in that space now, right?
Yes. I think that's a valid question, Sajjan, because I remember when I chose community medicine, it was kind of a subject who everybody opts as the last choice. So, say if anybody has not gotten any clinicals or any of the subjects like pathology or even
Mm-hmm.
microbiology, then at the fag end, they choose community medicine as the last option because that was the image that was there for community medicine. So,
Mm-hmm.
in my case, initially I was into DNB cardiothoracic vascular surgery, the
Wow.
6 year course. So,
Okay.
yeah.
I could see
So
that.
what
Yeah.
happened was, yeah, I initially took up the course because that was I did
Oh,
it
you
in my
took the
second
course.
attempt. Yes, I
Oh,
took the
okay.
course. Yes,
Got it.
yeah, I took the course. I did it for a period of 3 months, and
Uh-huh.
I thought I would be comfortable as a cardiovascular thoracic surgeon. But
Uh-huh.
I was not comfortable in the operation theater. So I was
Mm-hmm.
not comfortable staying for long hours inside the OT. Somewhere things did not feel in place. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I took a radical decision at that time, honestly, against the advice of my family and my friends as well. And I dropped out of the course.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost 3 to 6 months into the PG preparation time for my third attempt. But
Mm-hmm.
then I took a decision to drop out of it. And then after I gradually started preparing for the second time, then I started to wonder where I would be more comfortable, where I'll be actually enjoying the work I do.
Mm-hmm.
Then I came across community medicine, which actually involves working in the field, working
Mm-hmm.
with the health systems.
Mm-hmm.
So I felt, okay, if I'm not comfortable being inside the operation theater, maybe I'm comfortable in the field actually, where the
Mm-hmm.
ground level reality is there and we can actually see the change what is happening at a mass scale.
Yeah.
So with that call, I think I took up community medicine, and I chose community medicine specifically in Kasturba Medical College, Manipal, because
Mm-hmm.
it is even now one of the best colleges to practice MD-PSM.
Yeah.
And even though I had certain diploma and some diploma clinicals, I think in my state entrance, I
Mm-hmm.
chose to go for community medicine again against the advice of my friends and family. But yeah, I think I made a right decision in doing it. So that was
Okay.
the reason and the struggle behind me choosing MDPSM. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm even now, I think very few people take it up by choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's been now how many years that you've been practicing after that?
It's been almost 4.5 years
Four and a
since I
half
have finished my
years.
MD. 4.5 years into
MBA.
the field right now. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. And you are sitting in working for you UNICEF.
Yes. I'm with UNICEF right now. Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's wonderful to know. So now, in the last 3 years of PG and then 4 years of being in the field, what has been the advantage of or the pros of taking this specialty as a special subject?
Hmm. Yeah. Um, say, I think I would like to speak in terms of immunization.
Mm-hmm.
See, immunization, say you can take example any state or even the country. Approximately half of the public usually gets their vaccination shots from the private sector.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody takes their kids to the private pediatricians, the family pediatricians. But what of the remaining half? Sometimes even more than half of the population. They go to the government setup, the public health facilities. They are the primary health centers, community health centers, district hospitals, medical colleges, and roughly more than 70 to 80% of the rural population in the country, their
Mhm.
primary access is to these government health facilities.
Right.
So, if you want to make an impact on the people living in the rural areas and including the urban areas also include the slums in the peri-urban areas, the slum areas. So,
Mhm.
all these people who are dependent on the government, the public health system, if
Mhm.
you want to make an impact on this crores of beneficiaries who are receiving the services from the government, like immunization, antenatal care, postnatal care, institutional deliveries, HIV program, adolescent health services. I think this is the only specialty with which you will be able to make a mass impact.
Mhm.
See, I definitely agree that majority of the orientation of postgraduate students is towards clinicals.
Mhm.
And frankly, to be open, that is the way we are groomed even during our undergraduation. We have seen many of our professors criticizing community medicine. I'm being quite open about it because I face quite the same thing. Many of the professors, even the known faculty, used to discourage students or the toppers, for example, when they chose community medicine, they used to discourage them, saying that you can opt for radiology, dermatology, or even orthopedics. Why are you going for community medicine? See,
Mhm.
I feel that the impact that MDPSM or a public health subject like ours, the impact what it has on the health system, it is very underestimated by the undergraduate students. But I think thanks to COVID, in one way, everybody has realized the strength of the public health system.
Right.
Now we are witnessing the rollout of COVID-19 vaccine, which is happening at an unprecedented scale across the world. And
Mhm.
I'm proud to say that MTPSM is such a specialty which is in front line. And
Mhm.
even the state task force, the committees, all the decision making groups, the public health faculty are the foremost experts who take a decision on this. So I feel that one of the pros of taking up MDPSM specifically is, with one high impact intervention, you
Mhm.
can study the gap, you can identify where your impact has to be, you can mobilize the resources, and if you're able to influence the policy of the government, you will be able to mobilize hundreds of crores of money, which will influence and benefit crores of beneficiaries, not only once, it will be for the rest of their life.
Mhm.
I so I think this is one I can even give some examples if that is
Mhm.
fine.
Yeah, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So in one of the states that I had worked, we were working on special newborn care units. So
Mhm.
special newborn care units are kind of the ICUs in which they admit the newborn babies who have low birth weight or who have respiratory distress when they are born, who need additional intensive care. So the
Mhm.
special newborn care units, we used to work on how to improvise them even
Mhm.
further. And when I was working in one state, we observed that the number of staff present in the special newborn care units was not sufficient enough to cater to the newborns.
Mhm.
And we also wanted to roll out kangaroo mother care, which has already been demonstrated as one of the high impact interventions to improve the survival of small and sick small newborn of low birth
Mhm.
weight.
Mhm.
So we did an analysis using the SNCO online software along with
Mhm.
the government and UNICEF, and we developed an evidence which showed that these are the gaps in our SNCUs, and because of to fill these gaps, we need to mobilize more human resources and establish more SNCUs and KMC wards. And
Mhm.
even till date, I'm so proud that because of the work we did, I think approximately 300 new human resource positions, such as staff nurses and medical officers, were sanctioned by the government. Almost four new special newborn care units came up in four districts. Around 20 kangaroo mother care wards were established. And
Mhm.
even till date, all the districts in which these special newborn care units have been established, the staff who have been mobilized, they are functioning continuously, providing services to the small and sick newborn. And the advantage of this is a long lasting intervention.
Mhm.
Once you are able to bring a change in the system of the government and influence policy, so every year crores of beneficiaries are going to be benefited by it. So you can understand the mass impact of the work what you're doing. So I think this is what the undergraduate students really need to understand, that community medicine is not just going on field visits to water treatment plants, to villages, or chlorination of wells. So they are just the learning part of the subject. But what they really need to understand is, We know Alma Ata Declaration,
Mhm.
focusing on primary healthcare. Where did it come from? It came out from experts like us. We are the people who actually influence how strongly the primary healthcare system of the country is to be strengthened, so that the rural population, the vulnerable groups, they are the ones who are going to be benefited by it. So I think this is one of the greatest advantages of taking up MDPSM, because you'll be able to influence policies which are happening at the national and sometimes the global level as well.
Mhm. Wow. So
Over to
that
you.
was a wonderful insight what you shared, and also critical example which you worked on the field. Really, that inspires. So now, having with all these advantage which you shared, now what could be the cons of taking counter medicine as a specialty?
Yeah, it's a valid question. I think, yes, there are definitely some cons to taking up MD community medicine, because there are two categories of undergraduate students, I feel. Some of them
Mhm.
really aspire to be amazing clinicians, that they want to deal with patient care, intensive care. They want to be good practitioners. So,
Mhm.
if anybody is oriented towards becoming a clinical practitioner, do super specialties, and establish a clinic of their own, or work in corporate hospitals, dealing with patients in person, then MDPSM is not the branch for them.
Mhm.
Because in after we finished our subject, we will not be dealing with patients. We'll be dealing with health systems. I think that is the word everybody have to understand. So if
Mhm.
anybody want to deal with patients and practice like a clinician, MDPSM is not the subject for them.
Mhm.
That is point number one. Point number two, that I think I'm looking for the word grit. I think it takes a severe amount of grit to practice public health, especially in our country. Because I started at the district level, now I'm at the state level working with the government. So every government, every system has their own way of functioning. If
Mhm.
we are to work with the government, we need to understand their thought process. We need to understand how they work. We need to understand what they want. But
Mhm.
ultimately, our goal should be we need to advocate with them using our evidence based data, that what is good for the public and what is good for this vulnerable community. And
Mhm.
this is not an easy process.
Yeah.
See, a clinician prescribes a tablet to a patient and the patient takes it.
Mhm.
That is simple. And sometimes the clinician get difficult patients, they counsel them. And so it's a simple process. But when it comes to public health, we are dealing with a vast system of government, which includes chief district health officers, reproductive child health officers, immunization officers, and at the state level, additional directors, deputy directors, commissioner health, mission directors, principal secretaries. So there is a vast array of technocrats and bureaucrats what we need to deal with in the public health, and we need whom we need to work with in order to execute these recommendations what we make. And this, I'm saying, it's not an easy process. We require a lot of experience to understand how to work with the government to have the most productive outcomes. And that requires a lot of dedication, a lot of grit, and a lot of tenacity, because this comes only with experience. Once you have gained experience for few years, then you will be able to understand how to influence policies and give better outcomes to the community by working with the government. This can be a con, but if you are motivated enough and if you want to see long term change at the policy level, simply put, there are several guidelines. You must have seen the COVID-19 operational guidelines. There are people who have contributed to development of these guidelines. They are from the public health background, majority of them. So if you want to influence politics to such an extent, you need to have this grit and tenacity and vigor and sustained commitment. So I think
Mhm.
this is not a con, but yeah, I think this is kind of a qualification or a predetermination what you need to have before coming into public health.
Got that.
Over
So,
to you. Yeah.
right. So, a well made point. Where I'm coming for the next question is almost overlaps, but I think you can summarize in the way. So, whom this no specialty would be an ideal choice?
Yeah. First of all, you should be able to work anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
In my example, I started off in a small town called Koppal in Karnataka.
Mm-hmm.
I think it must have been as small as Manipal campus. Very small town. So I shifted from Manipal and I went to Koppal town, and I was the district RM and CHA consultant, were supported
Mm-hmm.
by UNICEF for Koppal and Gadag districts.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a whole different ball game. There you need to understand how the district authorities function. You need to interact with the field. You need to interact with the grassroots level workers like ANMs, ASHA, supervisors, Anganwadi workers to understand what are the gaps in the system. You need to have the capacity to travel into field anytime. You need to have the capacity to go anywhere, live anywhere, and then have a good amount of adaptation and acclimatization within you. And you also need to have a predetermination that you should be able to shift from any town or district to any state at any point of time. I
Mhm.
started off at Koppal town in Karnataka. Then I shifted to Gandhinagar in Gujarat, working with UNICEF as State Nuboke consultant. After that, I shifted to Warangal district in Telangana as District Cardiovascular Health Officer with WHO under the India
Mhm.
Hypertension Control Initiative project.
Mhm.
After that, I was moved to Hyderabad in Telangana as the State Cardiovascular Health Officer for the same project. After
Mhm.
that, I shifted back again to Gandhinagar, Gujarat, now working as Health Officer, looking after the RMNCHA program. So you need to have a determination that you will be moving a lot. But I say this with experience that when you move around a lot, you get experience of different health systems. Like I said, no state is same. Everybody has their own sync. Everybody has their own way of working. So you need to be prepared to work in the field, travel a lot, work with different kinds of people on a daily basis. This I want to stress more because in public health you will be developing newer projects, you'll be developing newer contacts. The officers sometimes keep changing, so you should be able to interact with a vast array of people on a regular basis, but still
Mhm.
maintaining the vision and objective towards which you're working for. So
Yeah.
I think anybody who is able to navigate this or who likes to work in different areas, work in different states, get a lot of exposure, who wants to go abroad and work in different countries and is ready to adapt to any level of change, they will be definitely suitable for public health.
Got it. Wonderful. So, so mainly the skills, the communication, and to able to be with
Absolutely.
the people in the community. I think the area where they were looking for the strengths, right? So now, once you finish MD community medicine, are there any super specialization opportunities? What else you can study, and how is there a requirement, or what is it in terms of next study opportunities?
Yeah, I think unlike other branches, which like general medicine or surgery, or they usually MD community medicine do not it does not have any specific super specializations as such, but it depends upon the candidate's own interest. I feel
Mhm.
because there are no prerequisites or any requirements that a particular candidate has to have additional qualifications beyond MD PSM in India, especially in order to get selected for a job, because almost all the vacancies I see, all the recruitment agencies, their desirable qualification is MD in community medicine or PSM or public health. So
Mhm.
that is the highest qualification what they look for. That
Mhm.
being said, there are some courses like the candidates can pursue after MD. They are online courses and short courses, and there are some additional courses like I think masters in public health,
Mhm.
policy and planning. Some of them even do MBA. I think they are not exactly super specializations. They are additional qualifications which the candidates do for their own learning purpose. If I
Mhm.
want to specialize in policy and planning, I can pursue a degree abroad or even in the country. If I want to strengthen myself in the management aspects, I can go and get an do an MBA. If I want to practice in result based management, this is a good term what we use regularly, RBM. So we do a course in result based management. So if you want to excel in any specific program area, then we try to do an online course there. So I think MDPSM itself is sufficient for to launch into a strong career in public health. At the same time, they can keep learning on an online basis by gaining this additional knowledge. So I think that summarizes it.
Got it. Got it. So you also mentioned some opportunities like MD competition is done, right? So now, what are the opportunities of career in India and also in abroad?
Yeah. See, within India, I think the two three names which frequently come to our mind are World Health Organization, UNICEF, UNDP, and even other foundations like I think IHAT, Bill and
Mhm.
Melinda Gates Foundation, Path, Pathfinder, John Snow International. So all these agencies typically recruit candidates with an MDPSM background,
Okay.
especially at the state level.
Mhm.
So because these are the organizations which typically look for candidates having communication, advocacy, and technical and analytical skills, which completely fits into the MDPSM background.
Mm.
So within India, I think I will just give names of some posts which I have come across.
Mhm.
Uh, in UNICEF, there are district RMNCHA consultants or
Mhm.
district RMNCHA monitors or district child survival officers who work on the RMNCHA agenda. In some
Mhm.
states like I think UP and Bihar, there are also the posts of regional level consultants for UNICEF who take care
Mhm.
of 4 or 5 districts. And then come the posts of state level consultants,
Mhm.
state level RMNCHA consultants, state level maternal health, child health consultant, newborn care consultant, routine immunization, health system consultant. So these positions are there at the state level. So all these usually come at the consultant level. So
Mhm.
these are within UNICEF. When we see World Health Organization, the first word that comes to our mind is SMO, surveillance
Mhm.
medical officers. So we have surveillance medical officer positions at the district level, even at the state level as the state SMOs. At the more above the state level positions, they are the sub-regional team leaders and regional team leaders. All of
Mhm.
these come from the public health background.
Yeah.
And similar projects are usually carried out by other organizations like Path, Pathfinder, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, IHAT, even the Karnataka Health Promotion Trust. So all these organizations definitely have positions at the district level and at the state level as well. So we have a vast area of availability for the candidates to pursue. But I think we should make more knowledge available for the
Mhm.
undergraduates and the postgraduates. What kind of positions are there in which type of organizations?
Okay.
So I think these are some of the examples. And what all these positions, what I speak about, are within organizations and at the consultant or the program management level.
Mhm.
And beyond them, there are example in UNICEF the positions of health officers, and above health officers there are health specialist positions at the state level and national level. And in UNDP there are positions of senior project officers. So,
Mhm.
and in WHO at the topmost level, they have positions of national professional officers. All
Mhm.
these category just I told, they come under direct UN employees.
Mhm.
Say, for an example, health officer, health specialist in UNICEF or national professional officer in WHO, they are
Mhm.
directly recognized as an employee of the United Nations.
Okay. Mhm.
So, I think what we usually aspire in public health is at the end to work for United Nations.
Mhm.
So I think there is a vast array of jobs definitely available. But
Mhm.
my suggestion is that after passing out, the candidates have to start from the district level.
Right.
So do not aim for jobs which are directly at the state level, because if you
Mhm.
don't work at the district level, you will be not be getting an understanding of the ground level realities. So
Mhm.
absolutely start off with the district level positions and gradually go up to the top, because with this kind of experience, you will be able to do wonders at the state level.
Mhm.
So yes, there are numerous opportunities available within the country. For example, these organizations, and yeah, there are also positions of consultants available under National Health Mission.
Mm.
Under NHM of each state, they hire similar position of consultants under the government as well.
Okay.
So, and also these similar positions are hired at the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare as consultants under NHM. So
Mhm.
I think the number of posts have increased recently because of since the advent of public. So
Mhm.
even within the government and the UN organizations and all the other elite organizations, there are
Mm.
several posts available in which the candidates can apply for.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I think that was very extensive way of looking at, and I think this was the area which most of us don't have any idea at all. I think you have got a lot of, I think, insight into that, and I think they can go and get researched into more and see what's available for that, right? So now coming to the next point is, all said and done looks good. So what about the financial aspects? How are the salary and the payment of these job profiles are?
I think the earning potential is quite good. For example, any MD PSM candidate pass out, if they are applying for positions in UNICEF or WHO or even Pathfinder, any of the organizations with the qualifications available, I think the starting point would easily be around 1 lakh. And there are some positions which even offer the consultancy or the manager level positions, which might even go up to 1.3 to 1.5 lakhs as well. So I think the starting earning potential can easily be around 1 to 1.5 lakhs per month. And as you go up the ladder, it will definitely increase gradually. So I think you can easily compare the earning potential to any other clinical specialty. Of course, it cannot be compared with super specialties where it is almost more than 4 to 5 lakhs per month, I guess. But yeah, this is a very decent amount of money that you can earn along with the amount of experience what you get in the systems. And as you go up the ladder in higher senior level manager positions, the earning potential might even touch 2 or even go beyond 2 lakhs per month as well in with years of experience. So it is pretty good, the earning potential, and any candidate need not be worried about this at all. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the job profile is good.
Mm-hmm.
But here I would like to point out that if somebody is looking at the monetary gain immediately after they pass out,
Mm-hmm.
public health might not be a right choice.
Okay.
Because, say, for example, I started off as a district consultant with a salary of around 70,000 per month.
Mm-hmm.
So 70,000 is a very basic salary nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with public health is as you move to the top, your salary, I think nowadays, when you compare with regular clinicians who are earning
Mm-hmm.
around 1 to 1.5 lakhs per month,
Mm-hmm.
in 1 or 2 years, easily any MD pass out can definitely earn the same amount of finances.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's not less in terms of clinicians.
Mm-hmm.
So if any candidate is starting at the district level, gaining good experience, moving on to the state level and climbing to higher positions, there is definitely a good amount of money involved, which is even comparable to the regular clinicians. Yes.
Okay.
So I don't think we need to worry about the financial aspect much.
Got that. So now, you also mentioned a lot of travel is involved. You need to get involved, like you need to be ready at any point of time to shift the places. So how do you see the work-life balance being in this particular position?
Yeah. Yeah. So work-life balance, most of the times it is usually a 9 to 5 job, except
Okay.
when you're traveling in the field, or
Mm-hmm.
except in terms of times like COVID,
Mm-hmm.
or any mass campaign activities like pulse polio or any emergencies.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I think work-life balance is really, really good when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to our specific area. I've
Okay.
had a very good work-life balance. So
Mm-hmm.
whenever you are with your family, I think there is good amount of time that you can spend in the evenings with your family. You go out in weekends because there are no emergencies involved in public
Right.
health. They are very rare. So they only come up whenever any COVID-like emergencies or any outbreaks happen that the government really needs your help, and then they call you. Then you need to report to the government or your organization. But other than that, the work-life balance is pretty good. You don't have
Right.
any emergency nighttime calls, no night duties as such. In that sense, it is good. But you should be prepared to move your family whenever required. So that requires a little bit of patience. But for those people, I think, who love to travel and explore newer cities and newer states, that will definitely be not an issue. So work-life balance is amazing. No doubt about it.
Okay. Got that. So,
Yeah,
in your view, what would be the future scope of MD community medicine next coming 5 to 10 years?
I think we are at the peak right now.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
When I started off my career 4.5 years ago, and when I compared the importance of public health or MDPSM that we are having in the country right now, it
Mm-hmm.
has almost grown almost 10 times.
Okay.
This can be evident by the number of new posts that the government and the organizations are declaring that the I'm seeing a lot of posts which require public health background, like
Mm-hmm.
cold chain and vaccine logistics support, health system consultants, or support in developing urban RI strategies, support in developing tribal RI strategies, or support in COVID-19 vaccine rollout at the state level and the national level. So everybody has realized that public health is a subject which is of utmost importance.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is because COVID-19 has posed such a huge challenge to our health system. Not only initially we thought it was an urban challenge, but
Mm-hmm.
later on it started spreading to the rural areas. So COVID started to actually question what is the tenacity of the health system in the country at the national level and the state level. So that's where we pitch in. We work with the government and we try to identify what are the challenges or gaps present in this health system so that the country is effectively able to tackle this pandemic.
Yeah.
And another reason why I think the demand for MDPSM is definitely going to increase in the future is we understood the importance of strengthening the health systems. When we speak about health system, it has several pillars. Example, it has the financial aspect, it has the human workforce, it has the data management, and it has the what is the evidence generation aspects, the structures and protocols. So our importance is definitely going to increase because the country and as well as the at the global level there is a dire need of health system strengthening. I'm reiterating this word, health system strengthening is the need of the hour right now. And
Okay.
for that, we will be definitely needed to work with the governments. So I think it is going to be a very bright future lying ahead for MDPSM pass outs.
Got it. Wonderful. I think we got a very much in-depth understanding of how a community medicine consultants could be exploring their job opportunities, career pathways, and in how big the impact could they be in the community. Got it. Wonderful. So, Shravan, we just now looked into a very structured way of our interaction and more of
Yeah,
what we can see from the professional part of right. So now we would like
yeah,
to have something more informal to understand how you have
yeah.
come through the journey. Could you just share from the days of MBBS and how
Hmm.
the journey was, and from the post graduation, what happened in the post graduation, anything, some memories, and during your work, as you shared one of the incidents which you shared currently. So some
Yeah.
informations from there so that the students can get insight into how the journey has been for you in personal. And
Yes.
we'd like to hear that more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think during my MBBS days, I was inclined towards becoming either a practitioner in general medicine or taking up pediatrics or taking up surgery like
Mhm.
everybody else. I was completely inclined towards it. So that is the reason I think because I did not get in the state entrance, I immediately went for the DNB cardiothoracic CTVS because that was available at that time. But then later, after 3 months, instantly I regretted the decision because like I said, I started to realize that it was not the thing for me. So yeah, it was a tough period actually. I think on a personal level, people who choose subjects like community medicine face a lot of rejection and opposition from friends and family. It happened with me as well, honestly, because nobody was able to quite figure out why did I leave the cardiothoracic surgery in the first place. So it was a tough time for me. I almost went through a phase of depression for a couple of months because no, I was not able to convey to anybody what was going on in my mind. Then I had to struggle for a long time and understand what I wanted. I'm telling this because I think students should think on an independent level what they want to do. They should not be influenced by their professors or faculty or the toppers in their class, aiming for only the golden standard subjects, which in my time were radiology, dermatology, orthopedics, etc. I think the students should have an independent ambition of their own and have different interests with them. So in that way, they'll be able to specifically target what they want to work for. I think I lacked that during my MBBS phase, but I think I figured it out during my third attempt at PG preparation. So eventually I opted for community medicine. So even then I think in my family itself there was a lot of opposition even during the counseling. I can take up pharmacology or any other subjects which is financially better, but I was very rigid that no, I want to go only towards community medicine. So after I passed out, I think KMC Manipal gave me an amazing amount of guidance into what can be done specifically after MD. Because we had a good amount of exposure with the surveillance medical officer, Dr. Satish Chandra. He was an SMO at that time. He used to take us for external monitoring in routine immunization. And we were the first batch who did Mission Indradhanush monitoring in Kerala. So that was my first experience in an outside state working with WHO. So that kind of inspired me that yes, things are good in the field. And I think Dr. Sajesh Chandra honestly inspired me very much to come to the field. Because I think even for postgraduates, usually the conflict is whether to go to academics or to go to the field. So if anybody has interest towards the academic, absolutely they can go to the academics because the contribution what the academics has in terms of strengthening the evidence generation or training our future leaders is absolutely wonderful. But at the same time, people want to who come to the field they also should see examples of people like us in the field who are working right now. So I had such an opportunity to interact with him, and eventually I chose this opportunity in Koppal, Karnataka. So I worked for almost 1 year there. It was a very small town, Koppal. I was living in this 1 BHK room. I was alone at the time. I was not married yet. So yeah, I was taking baby steps in understanding what was happening in public health. I was new towards traveling. It was an interesting phase. Then I shifted to Gujarat as state newborn care consultant. That was, I think, almost after 1 year. After 1 year of being in Karnataka, I immediately got selected for a state level position, and that was a huge challenge. I was in a state where I don't know the language. Gujarat is one of the toughest states because it has a solid health system and very good administrators, and it was quite a challenge for me. But I think I tried to adapt to it over 6 months of time with the help of my supervisors, our team, and even till date, I'm very proud that together we were able to influence so many policy changes. Like we made budget inclusions in National Health Mission. We made some changes to the structure in which I was a newborn care consultant. We contributed a lot together with the team in strengthening the special newborn care units, the kangaroo mother care, starting some capacity building activities. And that was the episode in Gujarat. And due to family reasons, I had to shift towards south. And I was working with World Health Organization as cardiovascular health officer in the India Hypertension Control Initiative. So that was a challenge because I was at the state level in Gujarat. And then I had to shift at district level as a district cardiovascular health officer. So of course the pay and everything was the same, but it was a challenge because I had to come back to the district level again. But then the reason for me to come back at the district level again was it was a new program. So to understand a new program, I had to start myself at the district level. But then immediately after 1 year, I was pushed towards the state level manager for the same project. It was a beautiful period in Telangana, yet again experiencing another government with different style of working. And this time it was non-communicable diseases. I was working on diabetes, hypertension, cancer. So it was a whole new ball game again for me. So immediately after, I think another 1 year, I guess no, after 8 months in Hyderabad, I got selected for the position in Gujarat. I was very glad to come back to Gujarat and work with our team, our health specialist, Dr. Narayan Gavankar. So I worked with him when in my first stint. So I was happy to be back here at a better position, working directly with UNICEF. Now the advantage of being with UNICEF as a health officer is we are able to work in a wide range of activities. We work on maternal health, child health, newborn health, strengthening HIV and PPT-CT services, strengthening immunization. We support the COVID-19 vaccine rollout. We are engaged in developing awareness materials, communication materials, media engagement. We are engaged in a lot of partnerships with several medical colleges, like even Indian Institute of Public Health, Gandhinagar, the government medical colleges, private medical colleges. We also execute activities with private sector pediatricians like Indian Academy of Pediatrics, Academy of Pediatrics, Gujarat. So I think it's a very wide area what we are working right now. And there is an amazing scope of innovation and constant development in the area what we work in. So personally, I feel working right now in my position is quite challenging and also at the same time really, really motivating because I need to learn every single day. I need to learn about every single upcoming component, upcoming program, how to develop new projects which cater to the vulnerable population and which have better outcomes. So yeah, I think this has been my journey so far. It was there were a lot of ups and downs, but the only thing I understood in my past 4.5 years was only three words: never stop learning. No matter what, never stop learning. You might go through a very down phase. You might they might not receive you properly at the district. They might not recognize you. It's just a matter of time. See, the only thing in public health is when you're working as a consultant or an officer working with the government, there is a certain amount of time that needs to be spent to gain the trust with them. Once they start trusting you, then they will integrate you in development of the required policies for the district and state level. So I think it took a good amount of time for me because I kept moving from place to place. But like I said, grit, tenacity, and constant motivation are absolutely required. which I hopefully, I'm glad that I was able to find this encouragement from all the supervisors I had all over the years in all the states. I was very happy to have a good supervisor in every office that I have worked with. So this has been my journey so far. Yeah.
Oh, that's been a wonderful learning experience, right? So as rightly said, keep learning, keep learning, keep learning.
Yes.
So you need to keep upgrading yourself, upgrading your skills, and that's how we grow and also get adopted for the new changes what comes dynamically. Great. So now with so much of work and so much of upgrades which have been happening in your life, what has been that one challenge which you have been facing? What
Yeah,
has
I
been the
think the
challenging
challenge
moment
that I
which you
have faced
can
a lot.
share? Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think the challenge I often quite faced was gaining that trust with the government or the administration I was working with. Because, like I said, I was shifting once in every year almost.
Mhm,
So I think this is the third state I'm working in right now, and third state for the second time. So in essence, I have shifted four times in the past
mhm,
4.5 years itself.
mhm,
So the first 6 months, it was always a challenge for me, the 3 to 6 months, to understand how the process works, to understand how the government works, and to gain the trust.
mhm,
Because it is very natural that the government structure is very solid, and they do not take advice, technical advice, from people that they are not familiar with. So
mhm.
that has always been a challenge for me to set up this level of trust between me and the officials that I'm working with in the first 3 to 6 months of phase.
Right.
And often I think some of the experiences were, I used to be ignored sometimes. So we used to go with proposals and projects, and they used to say, no, no, not right now. We might discuss it. This is another time. And there were periods of rejection. There were periods of awkwardness. There were periods of embarrassment. So I used to go through a lot of tussle sometimes, even speaking to my supervisors that I did not do MD to go through all these things. I think I went through this phase a lot, and my supervisors were at that time were patient enough to bear with these outbursts of mine, to be candid. But yeah, I think everybody goes through this,
Right,
honestly.
right, right.
Every person who is at the state level or national level right now writing guidelines for COVID, or developing this softwares at the national level, uh, deciding what vaccine to come, all these people definitely would have started at the district level, definitely would have faced all these embarrassing and awkward situations with the government or the organization. But
Mhm,
yeah, I think these were the places where I learned. So
mhm,
I learned that by going through all these phases, what to do and what not to do, and how better to do. And we always have this phase. We always should know what to speak, when to speak, and with whom to speak.
mhm.
And these are the areas which I made the biggest blunders in my career in the beginning. But I think I have a better grip on it now. So I think this was the challenge I faced. And on a personal level, yeah, it was difficult for me to shift my family. It was easier when I was alone, shifting from here to
Mhm,
Gujarat. But once I got married and I had a kid, it was little difficult shifting almost three times my family
mhm.
from one state to another state.
Yeah.
So that took a toll on us. But I think that was for my own good. Honestly, if I did not take the decision, or my family, they would not have supported me for shifting this or making the financial arrangements so far, I would not have been in this position. Because I still remember, when I was a consultant, I used to look up to this position, whatever I'm in right now, dreaming that I should become that one day, because that is the thing what I want to have. And if I would not have gone through all these challenges, the embarrassing moments, the awkward moments, sometimes insults or sometimes rejection, the financial troubles, issues when shifting, I would not have been in this phase. And I think since I'm going through all this, if anybody goes through this, you will be at a position where you will be able to mobilize hundreds of crores of money in the future when you're at the national and global level. And that is a satisfaction which cannot be compared to anything else. So I think I still remember a quote by one famous cardiologist. I'm sorry, I'm not able to remember his name. He was a heart transplant surgeon. I'm sorry, I'm not able to recall his name. His quote was that if I was into public health, I would have saved 100 times more lives than what I was were able to save through heart transplant. See, that
Mhm.
is the essence of public health, I felt. Now I'm in a position where, together with the organization and government, I can try to push for policies which literally benefit people living in tribal areas, people
Mhm.
who are migrants, people in rural areas below poverty line who need vaccines, who need
Yeah.
good health care, who need quality service delivery. I will be able to influence all these with the help of the government organization because of the position I'm in today. So
Mhm.
yeah, a lot of challenges were there, but I'm glad I had all these challenges
Mhm.
because I think after any candidate who comes out of MD, they need to be beaten like a stone because only then they'll be able to become a beautiful statue. Without that, we'll be not able to become a good practitioner in public health. That have been my challenges.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's says a lot of things. The how like how the failures are the stepping stones for the success.
Absolutely, yes,
Right. So with all this, the hassles which you have gone through, what has been the
yeah,
best and beautiful part of being in this specialty?
okay. I think the best part is NHM. I think that that
Okay.
word comes to my mind often. National Health Mission.
Uh-huh.
Every state has this budget, National Health Mission budget. They call it
Mhm.
NHM PIP.
Mhm.
So they actually decide on what plans to propose, what innovations to propose, and how many additional staff would be required. All this is proposed in NHM of any state.
Mhm.
Till date, I'm very happy that I was part of the team who managed to bring up so many changes in this budget, which amounted to crores of rupees, recruited hundreds of staff,
Mhm.
established many special newborn care units, kangaroo mother care wards. This was in one state. In the another state, when we worked for non-communicable diseases, we ensured that there would be free supply for all the people in the state who are affected with hypertension and diabetes. We were able to
Mhm.
secure that budget.
Mhm.
So I was happy that even now, I think that that has been my best achievement. I was able to influence this policy of the government by working with the government and the organization, that this proposal has to be made in the budget, and the catch here is it will be done on an yearly basis.
Mhm.
It has to get only approved once. Let's say, for example, 25 crores of budget for 40 crores of budget for non-communicable diseases.
Mhm.
Once we get this approved, it is going to run every year. They
Yeah.
need not approve it again.
Mhm.
And the difficult part is getting it approved, getting the relevant justifications, giving them enough evidence, and telling them why we need this budget. So I'm really happy that I was part of these teams in these three states,
Mhm.
with which I was able to mobilize this huge amounts of budget, which individually, in no way in my lifetime, I would be able to do it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think that has been my biggest satisfaction so far. Whenever I come across, even in Gujarat, I still remember the work we did 2 years ago. Even in the recent meetings, they were quoting that work was done 2 years ago, and we were very happy with all the work that was done by UNICEF at that time. So
Mhm.
that gives the satisfaction that
Mhm.
okay, I'm one of the reasons why this thing is there here, or this special newborn care unit was established, and because of it, every day 10 to 20 newborns are being saved there. So that, in a way, I think I'm happy to be of contribution to all that. Yeah,
Wonderful, wonderful. And
yeah,
that's very inspiring to know. And really, there's a lot of contributions which you have made, right? So now with that, I think we are almost at the end of the discussions.
yeah,
And what would be your guidance for the students who are inclined to take computer medicine as a specialty?
yeah. Definitely go for it. I think we are in dire need of public health experts now. If at
Mhm.
all we have understood one thing since we have since the advent of the COVID pandemic, the most important thing for our health system is health system strengthening and health system preparedness. And we need to strengthen the health system from the primary healthcare level till the tertiary healthcare level, with extensive focus on primary healthcare, targeting all the vulnerable groups, including the tribal areas and the rural areas. And we are the leaders, and you are the leaders who are going to lead the country in the future. I think if you are inclined towards coming into public health, absolutely do it, because the level of impact what you can have once you practice public health, it is not cannot be compared to anything else what can be done, honestly. Whatever we are able to achieve at the state level and at the national level, it will lead to a huge amount of satisfaction. And uh, go for it. Please do not have a second doubt that others are going to see you as losers, or you have taken as the last option, or they were not able to go for better subjects. Do not care for anybody's words. Do not care for your family's words. Do not care for your friends' words. If you are inclined towards public health, just go for it. In few years, people will realize the potential or the impact you are making on the community through the government. Then they will realize what the power of community medicine is. So my only one word is three words: go for it. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful, Dr. Shawan. So, Dr. Shawan, we heard a lot of things what you shared, and it's really inspiring to see you, taking this journey apart from a lot of resistance from different people around you itself, and taking his journey boldly and making it possible currently. And I see you're making a lot of difference and impact for the entire lakhs and crores of people in India, and we wish that you climb much more higher positions to make bigger impact and even internationally. So thank you, Dr. Shawan, for being here, and also this we see our healthcare community medicine healthcare professionals and unsung heroes. Now a lot of changes
Yeah.
happening, but we are not knowing. So I think we are very happy to listen to one of the heroes here on the screen today. And thank you for being here today.
I'm humbled. I'm humbled a lot, Dr. Sachin. I'm just glad that I was able to contribute to this. And I only hope that with whatever discussion or guidance we are giving right now, we will be able to inspire more students to take up community medicine, and we will be able to create more public health leaders who will be able to impact the decisions at the global level. I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you very much for this opportunity today.
Thank you, Dr. Shawan.
Isn't this valuable to know the career pathway of a specialist? Hear from experiences of 50 plus consultant doctors from across India. Get an insight into 22 plus medical specialties and make an informed career decision which will shape your future. Join India's first of a kind online medical specialty summit exclusively designed for medical students. Visit our website drsajjanacademy.com to know more. Don't miss out on this golden opportunity.